The house was steeped in an oppressive silence following the funeral, each corner weighed down by the echoes of a life that had quietly departed. Alone at the dining table, I gazed at a half-finished cup of coffee, engulfed by a sense of loss deeper than I had ever imagined. The burden of solitude enveloped me, a dense and persistent mist that refused to lift. Just as I believed the night would engulf me entirely, a gentle knock echoed at the door. With a sense of bewilderment and trepidation, I unlatched the door to reveal my son's closest companion, his gaze brimming with an emotion I couldn't quite grasp, an emotion poised to alter the course of our lives forever. The instant my gaze fell upon him, an unfamiliar chill coursed through my being. Under the glow of the porch light, Jason, my son's closest companion, appeared transformed. He had shed the image of the lanky teenager who once plundered our refrigerator and dozed off in the living room following epic video game marathons. He stood tall, broad-shouldered, his face etched with the gravity of a man who had traversed the world and borne its burdens. For a brief moment, silence enveloped us both. The night air lingered around us, heavy with unspoken words. Text, I regret your loss. He finally spoke, his voice resonating with a depth and steadiness that felt unfamiliar yet comforting. I nodded, at a loss for words. Grief had taken so much from me, my husband. My laughter, my sense of belonging, and now, even my voice. Jason shifted uncomfortably, cradling a small container in his hand. I brought you something, he added, extending his hand, revealing a humble homemade casserole. It was a gesture both minuscule and monumental, one that broke apart the delicate barrier I had constructed within. Thank you, I murmured, moving aside to grant him entry. The house engulfed him in a heartbeat, as if it craved vitality and noise with an insatiable hunger. He placed the casserole on the kitchen counter and turned to me, worry evident in his expression. How are you holding up? He asked softly, his gaze probing into mine with a depth that made me feel truly seen, perhaps for the first time in weeks. I offered a constrained, mirthless smile. Surviving, I uttered, my voice faltering on the syllable. Jason paused for a heartbeat. Then, to my surprise, he extended his hand and brushed against mine, not in a transient, obligatory manner, but in a profound, stabilizing way that resonated deeply within my chest. I yearned to withdraw, to envelop myself in my shroud of melancholy, yet an inner force held me back. The connection was essential to me. I found myself yearning for a gentle nudge, a reminder that I was still very much alive. Do you want me to stay for a bit? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, tinged with a hint of hesitation, as if he feared crossing an invisible boundary. As I surveyed the vacant house, my gaze fell upon the photo frames that remained fixed to the walls, and I was enveloped once more by the suffocating stillness that hung heavily in the air. Indeed, I mentioned earlier that I might overthink it. Kindly. We entered the living room, a realm imbued with a blend of warmth and melancholy. Jason perched on the edge of the couch, while I nestled into the opposite end, drawing a throw blanket snugly over my lap. For a brief moment, we lingered in silence, the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the sporadic creak of the aging house our only companions. It was peculiar how instinctive it seemed to have him by my side, serving as a connection between the life I had left behind and the ambiguous future that awaited me. Our conversation began with the ordinary touching on his experiences at his new job and the transformations the neighborhood had undergone during his time at college. Slowly, the dialogue began to delve into more profound depths. He inquired about my husband, probing into what I longed for the most. It was an unassuming question, yet it shattered something deep within me. I discovered that I was voicing thoughts I had long suppressed, afraid that their burden would shatter me. I spoke of the laughter that echoed in the stillness of the night, the serene mornings that welcomed us, and the unspoken understanding conveyed through fleeting glances. Jason absorbed every word, refraining from interjecting or attempting to mend anything. He simply listened, his focus so complete and immediate that it caused a pang in my chest. And then, as I reached the end of my words, he leaned in closer and said, "You can miss him and still crave the presence of another." The declaration struck me with such unfiltered honesty, a truth so achingly real that I found myself compelled to shut my eyes for a brief moment, seeking steadiness amidst the weight of its impact. I opened them to discover him nearer than ever, his face cloaked in shadow, yet his eyes radiant. In their gaze, there existed no trace of pity, only a profound understanding, a mere whisper of solace, unvoiced yet profound. For a fleeting instant, I sensed I was poised on the brink of something perilous yet exquisite, a force that held the power to either mend my wounds or shatter me even more. My heart pounded in my chest, filled with a mix of doubt and an unexpected readiness. It had been ages since anyone had gazed at me in such a way, as if I were desired, not discarded. My breath hitched, a spark of electricity crackling in the narrow expanse that separated us. For the first time in what seemed like an eternity, I permitted myself to ponder, what if progressing did not necessitate leaving the past behind? What if it signified the discovery of something fresh, something gentle and restorative amidst the remnants of what has been forsaken? Jason must have noticed the shift in my gaze, for he offered a slow, cautious smile that held within it a myriad of unvoiced vows. My heart quickened. Uncertain of the destination this night would take me, I found an unexpected sense of calm within me. I existed, and I was prepared to embrace the sensations once more. Jason moved just enough for his knee to graze mine, and that unintentional touch caused my breath to catch in my throat. It would have been effortless to withdraw to establish a chasm and feign that the moment had never transpired. Yet, I refrained. I lingered in that moment, sensing the warmth where his skin brushed against mine, allowing it to fill the empty, frigid voids within me. His gaze lingered on mine with a deliberate intensity, offering me countless moments to withdraw, countless chances to refuse. Yet I remained fixed in place, my heart thundering with a force that drowned out any words I might have uttered. In a moment of instinct, I extended my hand and made contact with his, my fingers gently enveloping his. His hand exuded warmth and steadiness, its slight callousness a sharp counterpoint to the quivering fragility I experienced within. He responded by turning his palm upward, intertwining his fingers with mine. The gesture was so simple yet so intimate that it made my throat tighten with emotion. I had lost sight of the sensation of being touched in such a way, not from a sense of obligation or duty, but from a place of true care and presence. Jason moved in, closing the gap that lingered between us. His hand rose slowly, with a touch of hesitation, to gently tuck a stray strand of hair behind my ear. His fingertips brushed against my skin, and a shiver coursed down my spine. For what felt like an eternity, he regarded me, his eyes laden with significance. "You are so beautiful," he whispered, his voice thick with a reverence that felt almost palpable. It had been years since anyone had spoken to me with such raw, unfiltered sincerity. The sting of tears threatened to spill from my eyes, yet I blinked them back, determined not to let them cascade down my cheeks. Instead, I surrendered to his touch, allowing his hand to gently cradle my cheek. The outside world faded away, leaving behind the sorrow, the solitude, the relentless stream of hollow sympathies, until all that remained was this instant just him and me, and the profound yearning that lingered in the air between us. He edged nearer, and I could sense his breath brushing against my lips. A moment hung in the air, thick with uncertainty, as though he were offering me one last chance to escape. Yet it was not something I desired. I bridged the gap softly, placing my lips against his. The kiss began gently, a hesitant touch, as though we both feared the possibility of retreat. Yet in that moment of hesitation, as I inclined my head to forge a deeper bond, he reacted with an intensity that sent my heart racing uncontrollably. His arms encircled me, drawing me close, and in that moment, after what felt like an eternity, I experienced the sensation of being held, genuinely profoundly held. The kiss deepened, a fervent urgency enveloping us, as though we were striving to reclaim moments that had slipped away. My hands glided over his chest, sensing the power concealed beneath his shirt, the tangible presence of him anchoring me in a manner I had not fully understood, I craved. He withdrew slightly, his gaze locking onto mine, probing for any hint of remorse. Yet what he would have discovered was a profound yearning, an intense and undeniable desire to experience life anew, to be desired, to be acknowledged. "Do you truly believe that?" he inquired, his voice gravelly and subdued. I nodded, speechless, and that was all the consent he required. He rose, taking my hand with a tender touch, and guided me toward the staircase. Each step was laden with expectation, and every look exchanged between us was heavy with unvoiced vows. As we arrived at my bedroom, my hands quivered not from fear, but from the exhilarating anticipation of what was to come. Jason moved with a careful grace, almost as if in a sacred ritual, as he assisted me in shedding my cardigan. His fingers grazed my skin, igniting a sensation that lingered like embers in their path. He pressed his lips to the hollow of my throat, tracing the gentle curve of my shoulder, lingering, as though he wished to relish every inch of my being. I reciprocated, my fingers weaving through his hair, tracing the firm contours of his back, sensing the rhythm of his muscles as they tensed and relaxed beneath my caress. As he gently placed me on the bed, a wave of tenderness washed over me, stirring a deep ache in my heart. He lingered above me for a heartbeat, his gaze absorbing every nuance as if etching each detail into his memory. "You are incredible," he murmured, and the awe in his voice made me believe it too, if only for tonight. The remainder of our garments vanished gradually, without haste, each item cast aside, as if shedding the weight of past lives, past sorrows. His touch was not marked by the clumsy enthusiasm of youth. Rather, it carried a profound, aching tenderness that rendered every part of me both seen and cherished. Each kiss, each gentle touch, each softly spoken word served as a soothing remedy for the scars I had concealed for far too long. The tangible bond we shared crackled with energy, yet it was the profound emotional closeness that unraveled me. His gaze, unwavering and deep, held mine with a tenderness that made me feel whole, as if I were not flawed or diminished, but truly valued. Our bodies swayed in harmony, entwined in a timeless rhythm, a languid, intimate dance that crescendoed until it enveloped us entirely. As I finally uttered his name, it was not merely a release I experienced. It was a profound rebirth. It was the restoration of a fragment of my being I had believed was gone for good. In the aftermath, we found ourselves entwined, our breaths gradually synchronizing the space around us, enveloped in a gentle golden hush. Jason's fingers glided over my arm, languid and gentle, as though he feared the moment would slip away. I laid my head against his chest, attuned to the rhythmic pulse of his heart, resonating softly beneath my ear. For once, I felt a reprieve from the suffocating grip of solitude that usually envelops me. Rather, I experienced a sense of warmth, stability, and support. He placed a gentle kiss on the crown of my head and murmured, "You are not alone anymore." With my eyes shut, I allowed the essence of those words to envelop me. In the course of a single night, Jason illuminated the myriad forms that love can assume, and he showed me that healing, despite its chaotic and intricate nature, remains within reach. In the depths of my sorrow, I lingered too long on the shadows of what had slipped away, neglecting the flicker of possibility that awaited discovery. Enveloped in his embrace, I finally permitted myself to entertain the notion that life might still unveil unforeseen beauty despite the weight of past sorrows. Perhaps, just perhaps, I was prepared to discover it once more. The morning light seeped gently into the room, illuminating the disheveled sheets and the residual warmth of the previous night. I stirred slightly, half anticipating the solitude that often greeted me, half preparing for the familiar void that had settled in as an unwavering presence. Yet Jason remained, his arm enveloping me in a protective embrace, his breath a calm and rhythmic presence against my hair. In that fleeting moment, I surrendered to the warmth of that embrace, free from questions and doubts, simply immersed in the sensation of being. Even as my body surrendered to his embrace, my mind commenced its restless disarray. Reality, as ever, insisted on recognition. I had aged, bearing the scars of my past, laden with a wealth of experiences that were beyond his comprehension. What we experienced last night was undeniably beautiful, even sacred. Yet I find myself wondering if it can endure beyond the delicate cocoon we crafted in the shadows. Fear seeped in, gradually, stealthily saturating the fissures of my heart with a chilling doubt. Jason stirred, attuned to my unease, and his fingers glided softly along my arm. Penny, for your thoughts," he murmured, his voice heavy with the remnants of slumber. I smiled with a hint of sorrow, my fingers wandering aimlessly over the contours of his chest. How could I express to him the depths of my terror? No matter his tenderness, a part of me remained convinced that this was but a fleeting moment, a lovely mirage destined to be broken by the light of day. As I pondered, my voice barely above a whisper, I selected my words with precision, reflecting on how last night seemed almost too wonderful to be true. Jason raised my chin softly, compelling me to lock eyes with him. In that moment, there was an unwavering certainty, devoid of any trace of remorse, only steadfast honesty. It was real, he asserted with conviction, each fleeting moment of it. Yet uncertainties lingered in my mind. What might others perceive if they were aware? Would they perceive me as desperate, pitiable, grasping at a transient connection to alleviate my solitude? Would there come a day when Jason would awaken, gaze upon me with newfound clarity, and come to understand that he was worthy of someone younger, simpler? I wrapped the blanket more snugly around me, as though it could protect my heart from the pain that was bound to come. Feeling the change within me, Jason adjusted his position, leaning on one elbow. "You're overthinking again," he remarked, a gentle smile gracing his lips. Such actions often arise from a place of fear. I blinked, taken aback by the effortless way he seemed to see right through me. "Perhaps I am afraid," I confessed. "You possess youth. The entirety of your future lies before you, waiting to be explored. I refuse to become a regret in your life." His expression gentled, and he extended his hand to cradle my cheek. "You are not a mistake," he said, his thumb gently wiping away a tear I hadn't even noticed had slipped down my cheek. You are the most courageous and stunning woman I have ever encountered. Last night transcended the mere act of filling a void. It was a quest for authenticity. My heart yearned to trust his words. Oh, how I yearned to place my faith in him. Yet ancient scars possessed an uncanny ability to murmur deceit during the stillness of solitude. I pressed my cheek against his hand, absorbing his warmth, seeking to silence the whispers of uncertainty within me. What unfolds next? I murmured. When the world re-enters our lives, when it is no longer just you and me, sheltered within the confines of this room, Jason paused, a flicker of contemplation crossing his face as he considered his forthcoming words. He confessed that he did not possess all the answers. Yet I am acutely aware of my emotions. I will not turn my back on this, nor on you. His words enveloped me like a gentle embrace, comforting, yet unable to dispel the lingering pain of doubt. As we donned our clothes and navigated the familiar rhythms of a typical morning, an unvoiced weight hung in the air between us. Each casual touch of his hand, each lingering look was imbued with the understanding that a significant change had occurred between us. We had transcended the realm of mere companionship, no longer two solitary spirits seeking fleeting comfort. We found ourselves bound together, a connection that both terrified and soothed me in equal measure. The sudden knock at the door sent a jolt through us both. Jason cast a fleeting glance in my direction, his eyes silently inquiring whether I wished for him to respond. I shook my head, donning my sweater and carefully smoothing my hair. Whoever it may be, they could bide their time. I required a brief pause to collect my thoughts, to determine just how much of the enchantment from the previous night I was prepared to reveal to the outside world. Yet beneath the surface, I understood that the true struggle lay not in the judgments of others, but in confronting my own fears. Apprehension lingers at the thought of exposing my vulnerability. Once more, trepidation grips me at the idea of daring to hope, and a deep-seated anxiety arises at the prospect of unveiling my heart to forces beyond my grasp. Jason approached from behind, encircling my waist with his arms and gently resting his chin on my shoulder. Whatever lies ahead, he murmured softly, we will confront it side by side. His words, though unadorned, bore the profound weight of a promise I had not yet recognized as essential to my being. For the first time in what seemed like an eternity, I allowed myself to embrace that promise. I allowed myself to embrace the notion not of whimsical fantasies or flawless conclusions, but of the chaotic, exquisite potential of authenticity, something truly deserving of the struggle. Perhaps, just perhaps, that was sufficient. The subsequent days were fraught with challenges, yet they bore an undeniable authenticity. There were instances of doubt, of reconsideration, of pondering whether this delicate connection we shared could endure past that singular evening. Yet Jason remained steadfast. As I recoiled in trepidation, he gently drew me back with unwavering patience. In moments of doubt, he would gently remind me through subtle gestures and unwavering words that love does not always manifest as we envision. Sometimes it arrives softly, weaving its way through the fissures of a shattered heart, taking root tenaciously and beautifully, defying all expectations. We cherished our bond in secrecy, relishing the intimate moments that belonged solely to us. The fleeting glances exchanged from across the room, the clandestine touches, the whispered late-night conversations that mended the fractured pieces of our souls. Challenges arose naturally, yet we faced them together, recognizing that our bond, while not flawless, was rooted in sincerity. Jason always treated me with kindness, never allowing me to feel like an inconvenience or an error. He illuminated my existence, embracing me with a sense of belonging and affection, not in spite of my imperfections, but rather because of them. One evening, as the sun sank low and bathed the world in a gentle golden hue, Jason grasped my hand and said, "You saved me too, you know." I smiled through the tears that gathered in my eyes, coming to understand that perhaps this journey extended beyond merely mending old scars. Perhaps it was about creating something entirely fresh and aspiration neither of us had ever summoned the courage to envision, yet both of us craved more than we had ever experienced.